Vamos a dar paso ahora a nuestra siguiente conferencia magistral, que será coordinada por Hani Nagar Shidit. Ella es una destacada alumna del Technológico de Monterrey, Campus Estado de México. Ella cursa el 8º semestre de la licenciatura de Relaciones Internacionales y la especialidad de Comunicación Organizacional, para quien pido un fuerte aplauso.
Muchas gracias, muy buenos días. Es un honor para mí presentar el día de hoy al doctor Strate, del cual me voy a permitir leer una breve reseña. El doctor Strate es profesor asociado y director del Departamento de Estudio de Medios y Comunicación en la Universidad de Fordham, en Nueva York, Estados Unidos. Realizó sus estudios de licenciatura en la Universidad Cornell, su maestría en la Universidad de Queens y su doctorado en la Universidad de Nueva York. El Dr. Strate recientemente coordinó el libro Comunicación y Ciberespacio, Interacción Social en un ambiente electrónico. Es presidente de la muy conocida Media Ecology Association y es el editor en la serie de libros Media Ecology de la editorial Hampton. Dejo con ustedes al Dr. Strate.
Thank you for the introduction, and I'm very happy to be back at Monterrey Tech. Very pleased to be part of this Media Ecology morning with Liz Jeffrey, Paul Lippert, and Eric McLuhan. And before I begin, I want to thank Enrique Bustamante, and I especially want to thank Octavio Islas for inviting me to come here and speak with you. The title of my talk is 8 Bits About Digital Communication, and I find it a happy coincidence that the name Octavio means the eighth. He's the eighth man, and that fits perfectly. Of course, I have to say that, as far as I'm concerned, Octavio is number 1. But to begin with, I imagine that many of you are familiar with the fact that 5 years after Christopher Columbus set foot in the New World, King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella reformed the Spanish monetary system. They started the minting of royal coins, or reales. That's how you say reales? That's right. And they created new coins, half reales, quarter reales, and eighth reales. But so much silver was found here in the Western Hemisphere, and especially right here in Mexico, that it became possible to create much larger coins. First 2 reales, then 4 reales, then 8 reales. And the 8 reales coin became known as the peso, which, as you know, means weight. From antiquity, the value and the name of coins was based on their weight in precious metals. This includes the shekel from ancient Israel and the talenton in ancient Greece. In ancient Rome, there was a coin known as the libra, which was the Roman word for pound, and from which we get the zodiac sign Libra, the scales. And the ancient Libra coin is the ancestor of the Italian lira, but also the British pound. That's why the British use a kind of modified L as the symbol for their currency. Now, interestingly enough, the English word pound comes from the Latin word for weight, pondo, which is also the ancestor of the Spanish word peso. Now, for centuries, the peso was the most widely circulated form of currency in the world, enjoying a position similar to that the United States dollar enjoys today. And in fact, following the American Revolution, as you may know this, our founding fathers refused to continue using English pounds and adopted the 8 reales as their basic monetary unit. But they gave it a new name, a German name, dollar, and they substituted a metric system of 100 cents to the dollar rather than dividing it into 8 reales. But the Spanish dollar, as the peso came to be known, was also accepted as legal tender in the United States up until 1857, and in Canada up until 1860. But because the value of the coin was based on its weight, it was a common practice, I'm sure you know this, a common practice to make change by cutting the 8 reales into halves, quarters, and eighths. Based on this practice, we got the phrase pieces of 8 that came into circulation, and it also gained a special association with pirates. And even though in the United States there were no coins that were the equivalent of 1/8 of a dollar, American children recited the nursery rhyme, 2 bits, 4 bits, 6 bits, a dollar. And 2 bits in particular became slang for our quarter, that is our 25-cent coin. And several songs repeated the line, shave and a haircut, 2 bits. Perhaps you've heard this. Yeah. Following the stock market crash in 1929, 2-bit became an adjective that indicated that an item is cheap, second-rate, inferior. And while the pirates of the Caribbean treasured their pieces of 8, the pirates of the American Stock Exchange priced their stocks, their equities, in denominations of 1/8 of a dollar up until 1997. Then they moved to 1/16 of a dollar, and it wasn't until 2001 that a decimal system was finally adopted. I mean, you think about it, it's absolutely extraordinary that American stocks were priced originally in units that doesn't exist in the US monetary system, and that this practice continued into the 21st century. But is it any less extraordinary to discover that there are pirates among us once again? This time, they're software pirates, and their pieces of 8 are not bits of silver and gold, but bits of data and information. The new meaning of the word bit, the new bit, comes from a contraction of the phrase binary digit. Binary digit becomes bit. And bit was introduced as the basic unit of information in 1948. 8 years later, the term byte was coined, B-Y-T-E. They made it Y instead of an I to avoid confusion with the word bit. The byte consists of 8 bits. It is the digital equivalent of the 8 reales. And multiples of 8 are the rule in the digital realm. For example, a kilobyte is not 1,000 bytes, but it's 1,024 bytes, a multiple of 8. A megabyte is 1,048,576 bytes, and a gigabyte is 1,073,741,824 bytes, a multiple of 8. I might add, on a personal note, that my very first computer was an Atari 800. It came with 16K of memory, and I had it increased to its maximum 48K. I bring all this up because the number 8 has a great deal of significance for us in the context of Iberoamerica and Anglo-America, and it has a great deal of significance for us in the context of the theme of the Bienal, which involves applying the balance or scales, the Libra, and weighing and evaluating our new era of digital communication. And so my plan is to provide you with 8 bits of information. I hope these 8 bits will constitute 1 byte of knowledge. Maybe, if it's not too much, perhaps even that byte will provide a small taste of wisdom.